to put that on the agenda. So we will add that after this. And
Number 4.
oh, okay, sorry, my mistake.
Okay. You just
Okay,
reverse
I
it,
would
unless you
also
wanna-
like
unless you
to
wanna reverse
add,
it.
that,
You wanna reverse it.
I also would like to add that, I need to talk to you about the Brookline Meetinghouse, funding. So I'm gonna add that when we talk about the Brookline Meetinghouse later on in the report. Okay.
Excuse me,
Any-
September 1 is on the agenda. Did you mean in other minutes?
I'm just confused. Okay, any changes to the agenda?
Did you mean September 1 being added? Because it's already on the agenda.
Okay, my mistake. You're good. You don't have to add anything.
There wasn't another one. Okay.
No changes. All right, we're gonna open, review, discuss, and vote on electrical bids for the generator hookup. Guy, did you receive any other mail? I did
No, I
not
did not.
see any. Here, Helen. This is- So, an advertising for the electrical hookup for our generator went into Saturday's Reformer. I have one bid.
Now there's video of you guys.
Okay. I have one bid that came in for the generator. Nothing else from the mail. It's from Larson Electric. And the bid amount for a 6-position panel for a 30-amp generator, 20-foot line, additional spotlights and LED time spotlights installed outside of the building, as well as a permit for the generator for a bid amount of $2,074. All materials and labor are included in this price. All the installs are code compliant, and work will be done pending the transfer switch availability. I'll pass this around.
Could I have the amount again, please?
The amount is $2,074.
Thanks.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the work for the generator installation and security lights around town hall in the amount of $2,074 from Larson Electric. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stan Noga. Any discussion?
Yes,
Bruce?
yes, I just had a question. Have we figured out where the money's gonna come from? $2,000. I don't know.
Yeah, that was going to be my question also.
No?
As an aside, I will say, I mean, I know we only got one bid. I mean, at first glance, and I haven't reread the specs, but that sounds like an awful lot of money. For that.
For that, wasn't there? When did we get them?
There was a grant that paid for the generator.
Okay.
This also includes, however, some security lighting around the building as well. Guy, is there money in a maintenance fund for the building for this kind of expenditure?
I don't know if it would come under the maintenance in the highway department. We don't, the only thing we have for maintenance in the town office is supplies.
I
We
think
don't
this
have a
would,
maintenance,
I would think this would come under ARPA, that we could apply through there, but I don't have an answer for anybody, what particular account it would come from.
Keep
Any
myself
other
over the head, but
I was ready to spend over $2,000 and do the nicest stuff and clean that here and then it'd be $800. I have no clue.
Well, no, the $800, I put that in the $5,000 grant that we got.
Oh.
So that hasn't, that has not been, that was paid by the grant.
Okay, that's the answer. Okay.
Is there sufficient funds left over in the daycare center? That could be utilized for this
Yeah, but
expense?
I see what's gonna happen now. We're gonna be hitting this daycare fund for parks needs. I think we have to have a little bit of organization.
All right, well, right now,
Can I just say something? It's really hard to hear people other than Dot when they're speaking.
I don't have an accurate number as to what we have. Unless God produces, I've asked him to do that before for me twice, but I don't know how much is in the daycare. I was guessing.
How much is what?
I was guessing to take the money out of the daycare fund, but I don't know.
I'm gonna have to
We have a
ask the
treasurer,
table
so
this
It should be in
motion.
your financial reports that you just got today.
I'm going
Or
to,
no financial report?
I am
I
going,
think
excuse me, I'm gonna table this motion, we don't have an answer to that, I'm sorry to say, good point. We're not gonna go juggle 20 minutes and then say we can't table it anyway. So we're gonna
Okay.
table this, what
Sounds
we
good.
need to do is to determine the source of funding that we paid for this, maybe can be done through ARPA, but I'm not sure. Yeah, does anybody wanna follow up on this for me?
I can look at the ARPA stuff to see if anything, but the problem there is, we really don't. I attended the meeting that was for budgeting, finance, et cetera. And Kate Buckley, who's here at our meeting here at this town office, referenced people, referred people to 66 items that are deemed acceptable expenditures. I went on and logged on to that list, and they're so general, just in description, that you can't tell whether or not
Oh, I figured
something
that.
like this is gonna apply or not. So the question becomes, how long are we gonna know what the specifics are, and it's an unknown.
All right, so at this time, we're gonna table this motion and bid. I will contact the vendor, explain that we have to determine from what account these funds can be paid by. So it will be on the next agenda.
Fair enough.
Sounds good.
So,
Thanks for keeping me straight.
Jennifer,
That's great.
okay.
I just-
I should have asked that question.
All right, we're gonna move along then. No scheduled members of the public, none at this time. Unscheduled members of the public, none at this time. New business.
You had a meeting of approval of minutes?
I got that, thank you. So. All right, so we're going to review and approve the minutes on September 1st, 2021.
Relax, I don't do nothing.
Okay, all right, page 1 of 5. Anybody have any things that need to be modified on page 1 of 5 of our minutes?
Yeah, I had a problem with the last couple of sentences under ARPA. If somebody can make this clear, it was noted that Brookline was the last two sentences of the first section. It was noted that Brookline was entitled to 55,000 plus. That half this amount was received, that this had been the county amount because Vermont County, on and on and on. It didn't make any sense to me. I'm not sure.
Where are we looking? Oh, up here.
At this last section of ARPA,
What page?
Right,
Page
page
1?
one. Is that page one? Do I have one page?
No, I don't think that is. It's numbered on the bottom, right?
I'm sorry.
It's on
Page
page
one.
Page
2.
two.
These two.
Okay.
It's on page
Anything
two.
on page 1 of
I
5?
apologize. I didn't realize it was out of
Okay,
sequence.
all right, let's go to page 2 of 5. Bruce, ARPA, go ahead.
So if you read the last section down right there,
Yes.
and it says, Mr. Johnson, his spreadsheet calculates the state that could determine those values.
You're mumbling.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was noted that Brookline was entitled to $55,000 plus. That half of this amount was received, that this would have been the county amount because one entity, counties didn't have the power, that this total will be 102,000. I don't understand how much we're getting, and I know before that we were supposed to gonna get $158,000, I believe, total
Yeah,
between the 2 years.
right, 150 $58,438.12.
But I don't understand how they split it here, this.
The Wyndham since there is no county government in the state of Vermont, as there is in every other state of the
Okay.
country, county governments.
Uh-huh.
They've divided the county ARPA money up to the municipalities. So the municipality in Brookline is due $102,953.61 in total for
Okay,
the ARPA for Wyndham County.
and that's a
our share.
55 twice? No, sorry,
No,
so keep talking, I'm sorry.
No, I think that if I may, the 55,484.51 is the total of the state portion of what the town is to receive. When I in fact presented it at the last select board meeting, I gave half that we had received currently, and that in the next roughly 31 days, we were gonna receive half of the 102,953, and that the remaining two halves would be received in approximately the same month next year. And the total ultimately was 158,438.12. I think he just condensed the numbers so that from an observer who didn't have privy to the the actual recording, it summarizes how the 158 number is derived, but it was confusing.
Yeah, I was.
all right, so what we got from the state of Vermont is $51,476.80 deposited already. And what we also got from the state of Vermont through the COVID, the town portion is $27,742.25. We expect similar deposits to be made next August.
If I were to make a comment, the only one I would offer some suggestion for change is simply delete, because Vermont counties don't have this power. It's not a matter of, I mean, that's sort of an accurate statement, but it's irrelevant to the rest of this paragraph. I don't know how anyone else feels about that. It's a confusing part. It's not a matter we don't have the power legislatively. The counties don't function like they do in most other states. It's a very different system completely. The towns have the authority, the counties don't for this kind of thing. So I don't know if deleting that makes sense to anybody. You want to leave it?
Can I read you the sentence that way?
Okay, read this.
It was noted that Brookline was entitled to 55,484.51, that half this amount was received, that this had been the county amount, that the total would be 102,953.61 with 50% due in 30 days. Total would be 158,438.12.
No,
It was not the county amount. Half this amount was received, and that is the state amount, the municipal amount.
I suggest striking that this had been the county amount.
correct. Strike,
Yeah,
this is.
I think that makes sense.
David, your hand was up. You wanted to say something as well? Or,
We've blown past that. It's fine.
okay. Anything else on page 2 of 5? Page 3 of 5?
Yeah, at the bottom of page 3, the salt and sand shed report in the first line, Peter, I probably didn't say his name clearly, but it's Chris Hunt is the Chris H from VTrans. If we just
Thank you. There's
Chris
another
Hunt.
Chris H too. And I
Yeah.
almost gave you the wrong one. Okay.
So Chris
Right.
Hunt, and then about halfway down, there's a line that begins discussed option for the salt shed. It should just be options, plural. That's it.
Oh, the options.
Done.
All right, page 4 of 5. Oh, Bruce, page 3. Well, go ahead, Bruce, page 3.
Peter, on the daycare building, Mr. Mello discussed working on SLP budget, 2 deficits of $485 for state mandated water tests. It was one deficit of $485 and one water test of $95.
Okay, that's daycare building, 2 deficits is not 2 deficits.
It's not two deficits.
It's
No,
not too bad.
well, the $485 one, and it was a $95 one charged to us was that we do our regular water test quarterly. I don't know how you want to word that.
So I could strike 2 deficits.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay,
Okay, page 4 or 5? Okay,
I just had one thing on page 4.
oh, David, yes.
The last paragraph under the highways and roads report, the very last sentence, that Mr. Clark had been consulted and then awaiting signature on the declaration. I think we should probably say something like awaiting signature on the flood declaration or whatever. I think that was referring to that we were all at that point waiting for the governor to declare a emergency in order to potentially free up funds.
Waiting signature
On the,
FEMA.
Waiting the governor's signature?
yeah, awaiting
Okay.
the governor's signature on
That'll do
a
it.
flood emergency or something like that.
I guess awaiting the governor's signature will probably cover it.
Signature will approve them. Signature, not the signature. Bruce, you want to say something? Thank you. Bruce, you want to say something else?
Peter, at the top, page 4, under highways and roads report, E-mark bills. If you go to the second line, that this year's needs would meet next summer.
Got it.
Okay, and then down a little further, under rented excavator. Just a moment. The very first paragraph, last sentence, it says, failed culvert on Putney Mountain Road should be addressed in a couple of weeks. I guess we should just go one in there.
Oh, good eye.
When it's never ceased.
Anything else on page 4? Page 5? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, September 1st, 2021 select board meeting as amended. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended from September 1st, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? All right, the minutes have been approved as amended. Thank you. Okay. Guys. Okay, so no scheduled members of the public, no unscheduled members of the public, new business.
Hey Dot, one
Yes,
quick
sir.
thing. Can you just clarify for the recording who is in the office? Because we can't actually see anybody other than you and Guy walking around.
Gwen Tanza, Stan Noga, Bruce Mello, Mark Bills, Gaetano Planza, and Dorothy Mancho.
Cool,
are in the
thanks.
office. All right, new business. I received a request in the mail to add some links to our info webpage for the Veterans Success. I believe it may or may not have something to do with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall being on display in Brattleboro. Let me just ask Guy, we do have several links, don't we, on our page for veterans?
Yes, we do. And, I'm being bombarded with a lot of requests to add to the webpage, and what I try to do is put on a webpage the things that really affect the town. But otherwise I'll have 600 different things. And, I add them as I see, necessary. So I think we're okay. I will look at that again and see if I can add it on.
All right, it was, a series of things like SNAP benefits, housing grants, loan rates, top 60 veteran employers, college resources and such. I'm gonna give this to you. Did I email this to everybody? I did email.
Yes.
All right, so you have a copy of the one. If there's anything additional that we can add to our page to make it easy for veterans to find resources, that would be great. But again, there's like 25 items or 10 items on this list, so
Does anyone know who this gentleman is?
we don't know.
Is he on our voter list?
We don't know.
Did you email that to Guy?
I did.
Yeah, I think they've asked me a few times, so.
My father was a veteran and I made sure I logged onto the veterans website as a normal course of action to keep abreast of what's happening for people that are veterans. There's so many other sources and they're all encompassing. And I don't know, your comment about you may have something already there that may be appropriate in and of itself, but if one just Googles VA, if they're computer literate, they're gonna look at our website. There are a plethora of plans,
Yeah.
activities, benefits, that one can access in a probably more concise area than logging onto the Brookline website.
I can put them on and, it doesn't matter, but like I say, we're being bombarded with, for some reason, and I think part of it has to do with this incredible fusion of money into the state. And I think everyone's trying to get, an handle on it. So, I think that's part of the reason, because all of a sudden, like I say, we're being bombarded with requests for, please add me to your webpage, please add me to you. And some of them are just, just shooting up in the sky, so I just don't even pay any attention to it. But some of them, they will send them to you, they'll send them to me, they'll send them to Gwen. They're almost like phishing,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Well,
Can I just,
go ahead.
sorry, can I just add one thing about it?
Sure.
I mean, what I would say is, I understand the point about that people could search and find lots of resources, but honestly, that could be said for any of the links that we have under our resource links on our website. So we've obviously chosen to put links to a number of things on our site. One of the things that we don't have a link to that I don't think would be a bad idea would be to have a link to the State of Vermont Office of Veterans Affairs website, which I think we could do probably if we.
I think there is a link to the Veterans Administration on the website, but I'll have to revisit that, Dave.
There's a link to another page which goes to a link to State of Vermont Veterans Home, which I'm not exactly sure what that is exactly. It's another government entity, but it's not. Anyway, I think maybe we might be able to provide a slightly more direct link to something, but just my thought.
I'll be more than happy to add it, whatever.
All right, Guy, we'll take a look at this and put that down. All right, other new business, there's another workshop October 4th on ARPA. Did not bring it with me, and I usually get shared to everyone, but I'll probably take it, and I don't know if anybody else would like to take it as well, but that would be for October 4th.
Just ask Dave if he can see this now.
David, can you see the town's table, the office here?
I can see you and Guy. I can see the
Can you see
camera
the whole-
from your laptop is all, pointing directly at you.
Oh, it's just the camera and the laptop, it's
Yeah.
not doing the camera from the.
Yeah, we're just seeing you.
Go ahead, Stan.
Regarding October 4th, I believe it's part of the Vermont Town Fair. There's the majority of it is going to be addressing ARPA for the towns in the state that want to attend. And I gather it's in person, but I'm not sure.
Some of it's in person and some of it is virtual.
Katie Buckley spoke of that today, and there's also going to be something else pertaining to that, I believe. On the 19th of October, it's a webinar through VLCT. And it's gonna be dealing specifically with funding of the state and how it's handled.
As the different webinars come through, we'll share them amongst ourselves. It would be good if a couple of us would take the time to sit in on some of these. They're not as painful as you might think they are. All right, moving down, flood resilient community funds application. These are just for. I wrote that down. Just trying to, yeah, I don't think I have that.
I may not have the application, but I think I have the letter or item it's posted.
Well, it's just, it's a application to help prevent flooding and such in our communities. If I didn't bring it with me, I'm sure I shared it and probably printed out and went home. But it came in under new business, there is different funding that's becoming available. I'm a little confused, there's so much money flooding the market, there's funding, and then there's ARPA, and then there's these other programs. I'm sitting in an emergency management webinar for the past 2 days, and there's just so much, it's just mind-boggling right now. I feel very overwhelmed with it, but this is another one. Yes, Flood Resilient Communities Fund. So again, Mark, as we go through, I don't know, are you meeting with Archie? Because these are all culvert and flood resistant things. He wanted to talk about it. If you want to talk with me and or with Archie, that would be great because there's all this stuff coming in right now.
I finally got moved to Brookline. I don't have internet service
Okay,
yet, so,
all right.
I'm signing up for it. Just
Okay.
need somebody to come look it
All
up.
right,
But I have talked with Archie and I will. But
so I've sent some of this to Archie as well, so, and I also sent it to you, so.
I can't open, for some reason, I don't
Alright.
know why, but I can't open anything that you send. And I don't know whether it's my end or
I
internet.
don't know. All right, we'll have to sit there and take a look at it. It might be, if it's a PDF, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to open it. And if, which sometimes is confusing, so.
Yeah, very smoothly, just,
I'll sit with you with it, all right. Okay,
In that particular program, if I may, under B, program purpose, when I read that, I made a note to the side that it might apply to Putney Road, given the fact that it's very vulnerable to that kind of thing in light of what happened back in August,
very,
on the 28th and 19th.
all right, so we're gonna move on to old business. All right, we're not scheduled 7:10. Wheeled excavator, I scheduled 20 minutes for us to discuss the base requirements and or upgrades that you might need to a base model of a wheeled excavator, a request for proposal discussion, discuss financing that might be financing for the equipment, and other equipment additional equipment that might be necessary by the road supervisor to effectively do his job for the town. So we can start off with talking about the wheeled excavator, its cost, if you found any that you thought was worthwhile, or is this something you still need some more time to do more research?
I would like to pursue some more time for research. I did get a call from the representative salesperson from where we rented, and they wanted to talk, but I was working on the road, I had trucks coming and going, and I couldn't visit. I gave him the office number, and in fact, we're only open a couple days a week, he may have felt he wasn't getting anybody.
Right.
But, so I did leave him a message and asked him to send us some numbers, some paperwork on the machine.
Okay,
And that was as far as I got with that. I did call the town of Stratton, who recently purchased the machine last year. And I asked them their feelings about the machine, if they thought they were happy with it, and we couldn't say enough good about it. They all just love it. It's so
Did he-
multi-purpose.
Do you know what kind of model and attachments?
Exact same that we're renting.
Oh.
They purchased a ditch bucket. They purchased a mulch mower, which will shred trees, like to gain back where the brush leads to the road. They use that for shredding the trees that are in the right of way.
Mhm.
And they think that's the greatest tool ever. They also got that 4-in-1 bucket that opens up to grab material.
Oh, and that can turn around, rotate.
This one opens up to grab like logs, rocks. You can scoop dirt by just grabbing instead of scooping. And they thought that was a very necessary tool to go with the machine. So they have three different options to use, and he said he would be willing to come to a select board meeting and talk about it if we got that far, but he went on and on about how great the machine was and what a perfect setup it was for town. I also talked to town Wardsboro, and we played phone tag, and at the last minute, today, he called and I couldn't hear him, and then I tried to call back and just didn't have the service, so
Mhm.
I'll keep asking him. And since the last meeting, I did go back on the website, and I do have phone numbers and numbers of used wheel excavators that I would like to pursue. So I'll try to get that for the next meeting. to
Okay.
Have something to compare to.
Okay,
So, but I just want to say that using this machine since the 24th of last month, I've accomplished so much stuff. It's just, I love getting up, going to work and accomplishing stuff, and this thing has been phenomenal.
excellent.
The things that it can do, and I'm more surprised day to day. But just being able to accomplish it, I have our 2 grants that we're working on are very close to being done. I think the last few steps will be grass seed and hay and pictures. And I believe there's one last culvert to be installed. It's on order, the 3-foot diameter culvert that we got permission to order. Should be in any day. And if I'm hoping the machine will be here for that installation.
Yeah, that would
Now, the company that we rented from called to see how the machine was doing, how we were doing with it. We liked it, everything working proper, and I said yes, that it was working great and that we loved it. And she says, well, there's no pressure. She said, keep it as long as you need it. So I
be
wanted.
for free, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right,
So what I was getting at was,
of course.
when we reach the 24th, would the select board consider furthering the rental another week or another day, or you want me to, but it's gonna
That's the
be.
24th, right?
Yeah. So at the end of next week.
And that's in Ohio. So
Yeah, I don't know,
that's insane.
I'm concerned about the budget. I do feel confident that we will be able, we've gotten some bills, $50,000 bills for repairs for the weather related
Flood,
stuff in
yeah.
the flood.
Right.
And so those are not on our payroll, accounts payable, because we don't know about the money, so
Right,
I don't know what to say, Mark. It could be as much as having a special meeting if that's
Okay.
something that
all right,
we have to figure out.
I'll leave it up to that and I will make contact with UDOT, I guess, on the 23rd maybe.
Well, I need to know before, probably in 2 weeks, the 22nd. If I needed to
Okay.
call a meeting to
Okay.
extend that rent for a day, 2 days, a week,
Right,
I have to know that the budget was in line and that would be a prudent thing to
You need one of
do.
them.
You need one minute,
22nd.
22nd?
Yes.
September 22nd is 2 days before he has to turn it in.
Alright.
Right,
So I need 24 hours to 48 hours to call a special meeting. And we would have the special, so we need to have it earlier, like the 20th, 21st.
Why can't we just like expedite it a little bit? And talk to Mark about what's sitting in what room we have in the budget, in the highway fund, and how much we're talking about in terms of.
I don't know how much we have in the highway fund right now.
Well, it's estimate one.
Do you know how much we have?
I haven't seen any.
I haven't seen
Yeah,
any
well,
numbers.
I don't got.
I know, our 2 grants will be getting majority of the money back on that work. We get 80% back, we pay 20%. Also, I heard that our governor had signed the declaration for
FEMA.
disaster funding.
To
So,
apply to FEMA. He didn't,
Yes.
that doesn't mean that we're getting it, but
okay,
I'm
well,
pretty
we're
sure
no,
75%.
I have.
that will come through at some point. I know that the rental was around 7,000 with the trucking here. And our contract service, which I feel that falls into, is somewhere around 43,000. Does that sound right? For the year, the budget?
They did, the lady from the company did discuss with you about, she said you keep it as long as you want, but she didn't tell you what the rate was, correct?
Well, it's the rates that she gave me ahead of time.
Okay.
That was 2,000 a week,
Okay,
6,000 per month.
okay.
And how come we're paying 7,000?
The trucking, they send a trucker this way and we go back.
Okay,
All
all right,
I'll hire companies.
let me just survey the select board. David, I'm gonna start with you. What do you think we should do about extending the lease to make sure we get as much work done without having to pay for additional trucking back and forth?
Well, I mean, I guess I'd say, yeah, it would depend on probably specifically what is undone of critical things at that point. I mean, we need to make sure that the grant work is done, but it sounds like that's almost done now. So then the question to me would be, is there additional work that we could hold off on doing or wouldn't expect to be doing until next spring that we're doing now because we have equipment? I mean, it depends on how we're going to use it. I, like you, am very concerned about our budget because we don't know. I mean, like you say, best case scenario, we'll get 75% of the FEMA costs, which I don't think we really have a handle on what that even is. And we were over budget in some aspects of the highway fund from, it looked like, from the end of last fiscal year, the last time we saw numbers. So we don't really know how much money we do or do not have. So yeah, I think we should be cautious.
Okay, thank you. Bruce, what's
I
your?
tend to kind of
This.
agree with David, I'm sorry, I tend to kind of agree with David. Because we haven't had any financial reports about it. I haven't, I don't like spending money unless I know where it's coming from, and I don't think we have a grip on it.
All right, so,
I'd like to do it, don't get me wrong.
right,
I think this is, if he's got the wheel excavator now, if he needs to get more work done, and we can afford it, I say do it. But if we don't know whether we can afford it. So we don't have any finance reports, we don't have a treasurer really right now, because Smeller's away, I guess she's still away. Mike Masters is part-time, I'm getting requests about Mo Mommy's
Okay.
packet, nothing about financials. Doesn't, it's out of whack, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see some numbers before we go any further with anything.
Okay, Stan?
Well, I would agree with both Bruce and David. It may, if the money isn't there, we simply can't spend it. And the issues that need to be sensitive to, I can't expound anymore on. I guess I just feel the same way. I almost like we're on a hold pattern until
Yeah.
we know where we are, which depends on the reporting of the financials in a way.
Can I make one more point?
Right.
Also, we don't know how we end up year end, did we? Whether we have a surplus or not, we haven't.
We may have a small surplus, I understand, but
Nothing
I don't
getting
know.
dramatic.
I don't
So,
know.
yeah, we don't know.
Glenn, what do you think?
Think we have to be concerned about the financials.
Like everybody's on board with
All
that.
right, so I'm gonna flip this computer around.
Something that, can I just clarify one more thing though? We may end up, while we may end up with a surplus in the operating fund, we almost certainly will have a deficit year to year in the highway fund because we paved. So, and we can't just move money between those funds. So
That's right.
it's a totally separate entity. And like you say, we also have no, unfortunately, at this point, we don't really know whether some or a decent amount of ARPA money could be used for some of these road culvert projects and water related. There's just so much uncertainty about what money we can and can't use related to this, unfortunately.
Right.
I'm confused like you, John, because now we got FEMA money involved, maybe. And I like this stuff that Carp just did for $2,500. Would that go into the FEMA? Could that be stuck in there, or could that be stuck in the ARPA funds?
No, it can't be, it's
No,
not
not the
FEMA,
ARPA?
not FEMA,
Not FEMA.
the trees weren't, no.
No, can't be.
It might be resiliency and flood, it might be
Yeah, right.
resiliency issues.
Okay.
But it's almost as if,
Yeah, confusing.
here's the thing, and I'm this workshop listening to, some towns have hired temporary employees to help them work their way through ARPA, emergency mitigation, flood, FEMA paperwork. And it's covered by the COVID money, because I don't know, it's just overwhelming what.
Did you see that Townsend's, it was now in the comments, Townsend's looking for administrative assistance to the select board. It was a fair amount of money too.
A temporary employee though is just someone who comes in to supervise the grants or supervise doing individual things. It's not a permanent position. An administrative assistant is a permanent
What's
position.
administrative assistant?
Administrative assistants are permanent, that the
That's what it
second,
said. I think it was, that's what it said in the comments.
Right.
Administrative assistants to the select board of Townsend, and I didn't read the whole thing, but it had all the things that we would know that would help if it was reversing Brookline. Dot, and how it would help her and help the select board out.
but we haven't budgeted for
Right.
any of that.
I'm just wondering if they're using some of the funds from ARPA and anticipation of funds from ARPA for that.
I'm concerned about the fact that there are all these sources of funds, but it's 75%,
Yeah,
which means that whatever the
yeah.
total is, there's
We
still
pay.
a sum of money we gotta come
Yeah,
up with.
yeah,
And the more we get involved with, the more we gotta come up with.
that's right.
And it's an unknown number at this point, it seems. I haven't seen an itemization of what our liabilities are going to be or are. So, I think there needs to be a handle on all that before we get too far along in something.
All right, so I think what I'm hearing from the select board, Mark, is at this time, it doesn't appear that we're going to be able to extend the lease past the 24th. However, if there is something, some formula or assistance that I can find out that will provide us with that infusion of money then we will have a special meeting and I'll call it and ask for the select board with the understanding of our fiduciary responsibility that we'll discuss it again, but before the 24th.
All right.
But at this time, I can't say
Yeah,
anything.
no, it was just a question I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, and, the culvert that's in question is part of the grant for Putnam Mountain, that'd be the last step. And it's not, we could hire somebody to come in, do the digging,
Mhm.
install that, so it doesn't, you have to keep the machine strictly for that. There are some projects that happened through the flood that we could probably hold off on for another season, I'm sure. The road is, pretty much everything is nearly back to in order, and I still have, over a week and a half to
To do more
be
with
able
it.
to do some repairs, which I'm sure I can fit into this 1 month window.
Well, I'll ask you to also go back and take a look, like you said, with the companies. And if there's additional attachments besides the base, you might need the, like the mower and whatever else that you might feel. Like a dump truck, and things of that sort, that I think the town is gonna need to buy too, actually. Like a dump truck. All right, let's move on here. Discuss the RFP, well, we're tabling this again to the next one, because we don't have, any details, and we'll table the, 8A-1, 8A-2. You wanna talk a little bit about financing, what did you find out, anything, or about financing, or table this all?
Yeah, I'm sorry I mailed you earlier today, the package, but I think if you're gonna look at anything, it would behoove us to look at the types of financing available and the summary sheet that I provided as to how it operates. I had earlier said in a past meeting that it's a 80-20 split. It's not, it's a 25-75 split for the amount purchased, so it's not 80% financing, it's 20. I checked with a local lender in the commercial banking industry and asked what their rates were above and beyond the Vermont Treasurer's equipment loan fund. And the bank won't talk to us in terms of their normal commercial financing unless we were interested in $500,000 or more of a loan. They, for an amount that might be something we would be interested in, they essentially would channel us to one or two of the subdivisions they have within the bank. One has a particular name, it's almost irrelevant, but it's called Leaf Financial, L-E-A-F Financial. And there's another entity within the lending commercial side of their venture or industry, which is a subsidiary of the bank. They've given me the phone number for that person in that department, but the fellow that I talked with, who was the head of their commercial division, said that the interest rate would be somewhere between 3.5% and 5%, depending upon the age of the unit. Does not compare at all with the 2% with the rate through the Treasurer's equipment fund. And their approval or the documentation they require to approve such an item would be very similar to the kinds of things that the state's equipment loan fund would require. So it'd be sort of quick, but there would be some questions along the way. It's interesting that the person at the bank also said that along with possible financing from other options, it would behoove the town to ask the person the entity that's selling the vehicle to us, if they have a special deal through their funding sources. He said sometimes those are very competitive, particularly if they want to move something. If you look at cars, you get 60 months for 0% at certain times of the year with some industry people. So he said it wouldn't hurt you, the town, to ask that kind of question when we're looking at purchasing something. Let's see, there was an issue back within the last 30 days, we're talking about possibly having zero interest with the fund through the Treasurer's Department for Vermont, and the issue of joint borrowing arose. And I sent you a copy of the letter that I sent to an individual, Ashlyn Doyon of the Treasurer's Department about this, asking her for clarification on just what that meant. Because I had the sense that maybe somebody in the past looked at it and it was two towns sharing equipment and both buying it and paying for it versus each town having its own separate piece of equipment, but because it's done through that division of the state, they'll give a zero rate. When I went on this afternoon and looked at the actual statute that particular department, the loan department functions under, it's actually done according to law by coupling the town's acquisition of equipment with the state's acquisition of equipment. So the state decides it wants to buy equipment or trucks, they couple the town with the state purchase and they have done at 0%, and apparently I assume we get the same rates, although it didn't say that. So I asked her to clarify this because it's two different things I've heard that are not synonymous with what my interpretation was. In any event, let's see, what did I say here? Our rent value range would be considered a small ticket purchase or something probably 160 to 70,000, somewhere in that range. I also gave you a copy of minutes for that particular committee. Actually went through and approved two other towns' purchase of equipment. It seemed like it was very quick and tidy, didn't take very long. I've included a copy of the actual application. There are some things they ask about our brand list size, et cetera, et cetera. I noted in the minutes of the state's equipment fund loan program, they have plenty of money. It's not like they're looking for, every penny to meeting demand. And the application deadlines are twice a year. They're under no guidelines of time frame that appears to respond at any given time. I looked at the statutes and a comment in their minutes that referenced or indicated that they were still deciding on something and they wanted to get more detailed information from the town. So whatever a reasonable time frame is, I don't know, but as soon as that lady responds, I will try to find that out for you. The specific deadline is April 15th and October 15th of each year. I'm sorry. Okay.
But the deadline means completed application by.
Completed application by those two days.
You gotta know what you got.
Yeah.
How much, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I provided you with enough information to look at what the program overall is somewhat about. You've got copies of minutes to know what they look at. They listed the towns they helped and the dollar amounts they provided in the minutes. And I have a copy of my letter to Ashlyn. And I didn't send you the statutes that pertain to this. But I will add one other thing. Looking to be of as much help as possible to the committee and to Mark, I logged on to several sites that have equipment auctions. And in the next 2 weeks, there are 3 equipment auctions occurring. One in Vermont and Rutland this Friday. There's another one in New York, I believe it's Albany. And there's one in New Hampshire in 2 weeks, I think, at some place called Deer Hill, New Hampshire. And there are the kinds of machines that you're currently utilizing and that we're using renting, but they're older models. If anyone felt of interest to find out what they're going for at auction, to be of help in deciding what we should spend and how much and how many hours each one had, I'd be willing to put the time in on a Zoom sales meeting just to see what kind of price they're going for in that kind of scenario, if anyone felt that would be worthwhile.
We were looking at buying a used vehicle before with certain, it was like close to $80,000 used, I believe, about 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was $88,000.
Okay, $88,000. I don't want to ask you to put in an exorbitant amount of hours, but you're saying you could Zoom with a dealer and find out what the auction.
Well, the actual auctioneer has a website which I've logged into, and they ask if I want to log in and get authorization to register for that auction. I don't believe require any money. It's just me saying that I'm interested, I'd like to view, and they give me the link and permission to log in to that if I want, or vote, or be acquire, bid, whatever the process is, it's bid, for a piece of equipment. Now, I've been looking for a small tractor for my yard, so I could justify that, no problem, without even mentioning this scenario. But I do know, because I look at the pictures of each of the 3 sales, that they have the device we're looking for, but they're not the new one that we currently are using.
I'm curious if you have the time to do that, but I don't know.
If it
It's a
gets too
4-hour
tedious,
Yeah,
I won't.
don't raise your hand and buy something by mistake.
No, I won't. No, I'd have to click a button, sure.
Okay.
I'll put big boxing gloves over my hands.
Already from that.
But auctions, excuse me, but auctions, don't you have to pay right then and there?
Yes.
Yeah,
You got a
well,
credit
I'm
card,
not
right?
looking to buy anything for the town, what I'm interested in.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, when you go to an auction, usually you buy then and there.
The check is due by the end of the day, or cash.
Right.
They usually have a financial, and they see that you have the money, and that way you have a number.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, I bought a skid steer that I had through that process.
Yeah.
And there were people there that did not have the cash. And they extended it, I think, to the end of the week, or another 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
There is an extra bit of time that you could bring up to me.
All right, well, that, just looking at whatever
They-
financing that we can find
Interesting to
out,
see,
or whatever vehicles that we could look at versus new versus used, is to be responsible.
And I don't know if this makes a difference or not, but the particular Rutland auction is equipment that is available because the contractor finished a large job that contracting firm is hired to do. And they don't have anything to go towards, so they're further to take the equipment too, so they're just looking.
I think that's a common thing with these companies do.
Yeah, they do.
They buy and use them.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Next job, do the same thing.
All right, continue on through here, financing the additional equipment. Again, I don't know. I saw that you moved a lot of dirt around, something, oh, he needs a dump truck now.
Yeah, no, the dirt that's around will get leveled off, it's a strategy.
Right, yeah,
It's-
makes sense,
We're moving it from one area to help in another for mowing in the future.
right. Okay, all right, so most of these items are tabled, till the next meeting. Is there anything else any member would like to go before we move on? Okay, Historic Buildings Committee, 5 minutes. I have here discussion of future plans for the round schoolhouse, future plans for the Brookline Meetinghouse, and committee composition, name of committees and discussion.
You keep this thing going out of it for a second. We just discuss one.
Why don't you do one at a time?
Okay.
First one, discussion of future plans for the round schoolhouse. It's, I did not take your list of items that I hoped to, and reorganize it into smaller work bee kind of items, but it's gonna, well, we have time to talk about it, although Bruce is raising his hand, so. All right, so, all right, go ahead, Bruce. You wanna say something?
What I would like you to consider. By the way, the minutes are wrong, I missed something on the last time minutes, it said I was going away for the first week in September, so last week. But I'm gonna have a fair amount of downtime for that week that I'm going away. And Stan and I already met specifically about the round schoolhouse, went over everything again. Great job that you did compiling my list, and I went over and looked at the doors again to the bathroom. And what I would like to do is when I come back, make a proposal about a work week specifically for that building, of the things that we need to do. There's certain variables, Mr. Bills has offered some wood to help patch some of the lumber that's missing, as an example. I have to start to figure out some other things about what to do with the open windows, which I was discussing with you in that. And I won't get too much into the breadth of details at this point, but I thought that to make, with everything that's going on, to make it as simple and concise with very few open questions left. But if it's done right, I think that we can button up that round schoolhouse in the month of October with enough people to make it a very simple work bee and be done with it for now, other than the vegetation for next spring, if we want to do something else.
So you're suggesting I place on the agenda for the
Yes.
next meeting around
Yeah.
schoolhouse,
Discussion about the work,
things to do.
There you go. I think that's the critical part.
yes.
What needs to be done and can it be done in one or two reviews.
Okay.
I think if we have enough people, I get into it then, that we could really get
Clean
things
it up.
done.
I think closing it up, getting it ready for winter is
Yeah, I
my.
mean, getting everything we need to get done, other than the vegetation part.
Okay.
I think it could be done, but there's a couple of variables, like I said, I want to get too into it, so you just get to.
So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Would it be appropriate then for those members of the board to put together from the list that was originally created, a new revised list, deleting those things that are done and looking at what needs to be done, come to an agreement on it? And then secondly, how we're gonna solve each of those
Right,
and whether some can be put off till next year, whether we can do some this year. I doubt we'll accomplish the whole list this fall.
well, I've done what you said, remember when we met? And I had your list, I checked off the stuff that had been
Yeah.
done. And left the others, or I think I did reverse, I checked off the stuff that wasn't done. And I started looking at it, seeing if it was realistic that we could do it this fall. And other than the two issues of the windows and the doors, I don't see it that big of a deal to get it done. But I'd be happy to make a plan for the October 6th meeting to how much I think it's gonna take to do. I don't think, given all the other stuff that we've got going, I don't think people want 2, 3, or 4 work meetings. That's definitely not gonna happen.
Okay,
And Mr. Bills would give us some help, I know that. So we'll have his help. But like I said, it's not tightened up as far as organization. Next week. I
okay,
wanna do that, I'll talk about the other building.
okay. All right, very good. So I have that I've added for October 6th, so the things to do list for the round schoolhouse will be back on the agenda for discussion. Next item, discussion and future plans for the Brookline Meetinghouse. All right, I had a meeting, I was at the meeting last night and they asked me to present something to you. The Brookline Meetinghouse members have solicited and received a few bids or proposals for protective storm windows on the at the building. And after much deliberation, they have decided to take a look, to go with a local vendor. There were 2 vendors. One is Allied Windows from Cincinnati, Ohio, and the other is Continental Screening Glass, was a vendor from Route 30 in Newfane. They're looking at combination storm windows, and the proposal or the motion that was made last night, and they asked me to bring it to the select board for approval because it's over $1,000, is okay. They are looking to use, they received a $3,000 gift from David Schupp, SCHUPP, a Brookline landowner, to protect the 20/20 windows in the sanctuary. They also have money left in their account from when we inherited the building. And they've split up how they wanted to spend some of this money. So basically, there are 6 20/20 windows in the sanctuary. The 3 on the north side, they voted to purchase the storm window setups for a total cost on the north side for 3 windows, $1,465.80. There are also 6 windows in the meeting room, and those 6 windows costs would come from, not from the donation of $3,000, but would come from their main account that they've been fundraising for. And that amount is $1,597.98. So they would like permission to contact the vendor, Continental Screening Glass, and okay the
And
purchase.
where the Continental, where are they from?
They are on Route 30 and Unfam.
That's the job.
So, I mean, I didn't add this up, I did add this up, but I don't have it in front of me.
$3,062.78.
But 1,000, it's sort of promise from somebody
Four,
else.
6, 5, 80, 17. 6. If my math is right, Dave, you might want to check me because I did it wrong yet. The total expenditure that the Brookline Meetinghouse Committee would like to spend is $3,067.78, of which $1,465.80 is a gift from a donor reserved for just doing the window protection.
1,600 out of the phone.
Right.
I really have to think before. But I'm having a problem. I don't say it's bad, but I'm having a problem with things being done to that building with no sense of organization in terms of order. In fact, I was beat up pretty hard when I was on that committee by Karen about not going in some semblance of order. Okay, well, what I'm saying is, I think first of all, I'd like to know what's in the fund. Of course, it's hard to find out any information is in any fund.
It's roughly $27,000.
$27,000.
27?
Yeah.
They have $27,000 left in their fund.
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Yes.
Yeah, quite a bit of money.
Okay.
Yeah, part of that is money the town gave them
Okay,
a while
Well,
ago.
wait,
all right, in
wait,
that case, I'll reserve the rest of my statement, which has nothing to do with this, and put support for that.
Anybody else? Okay, so the Brookline Meetinghouse Committee would like permission to follow through on their motion that passed at meeting last night to notify the vendor that they have won the bid to do that window protection.
Should I understand it was old, or just north side or all the windows?
Just the north side, because they were concerned about what they were going to look like before they go and put on the south side. Because if they feel that it's not as attractive, they've gone and looked at
I
other
gotcha.
churches. If it's not attractive, then they're going to consider looking at the other company, but the other company that does not do installation, and that was what was holding them back. The north side they felt was less obtrusive and they can work with it that way. So, they're looking for permission to access their money. Does anybody have, I don't think we have to vote because it's not taxpayers' money that we're spending. None of it.
Well, it's not, but it's town money.
money.
Yeah, it's town
And
money.
we, as a,
But I didn't put it on the agenda as a
27,000.
vote. How do you feel about
I
it?
Other-
think it should be, frankly. That's all.
Other than dedicated money that was given, it's.
I need to get going. I'll pick up the rest on the video.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm very appreciative of them looking at the purchase policy and complying with that. It looks like they've been working hard at doing a good job on the building, so. I would support them in it. As a select board member, I would assume you take a vote on it, and I would be in favor of making, or I'd make a motion to spend them, authorize them to spend the money.
So it's about $3,000 for everything,
Alright, so
Okay.
there's no,
for basically one north side. Do I understand that right, Doc?
it's the north
3 on the north side, 6 on the,
and 6 and all the windows in the meeting room,
Really, for $3,000?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
yeah.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Brookline Meetinghouse Committee to approve the vendor bid for the storm protected windows. 3 on the north side of the church and the 6 annex meeting room windows for a total of $3,063.78, of which $1,465.80 comes from a reserve donation for just the church windows.
So moved.
Seconded by Stan. May I have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this motion, signify.
I said so moved. You made the motion?
I will make the motion. Oh,
So
second.
I will second it.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I will tell them that this was approved. Thank you very much. I do have the bids if anybody wants to look.
Just out of curiosity, was the Cincinnati one without installation at all competitive?
It was,
Or
Yes and no.
over.
I think the installation is gonna be the extra. It's gonna
Okay.
push what.
I know we can't talk
Tom
about
committed to, yeah. We didn't know how that would, cost out. Okay, okay, committee composition, the name of the committee's discussion. I approached the Brookline Meetinghouse Committee about, absorbing the National Historic not National, Brookline Historic Society, since there are two historic buildings in the town of Brookline. And after some discussion, they felt that they agreed that the name Historic Society, Brookline Historic Society it does not make sense any longer because they're not doing all of the historic buildings. They thought that renaming it the Brookline the Round Schoolhouse Committee and the Brookline Meetinghouse should be the way to go. And if there was some crossover membership, like Kerry Bourne has shown an interest in being on the Round Schoolhouse Committee, I'm sort of interested on being on it as well. And there may be some crossover. I'd like to put it on the next agenda for a vote. What do you?
So what you're saying is that they're gonna merge?
No, they're not
they're
gonna
two
merge.
separate-
We're
two
gonna-
sep-
Two separate,
Okay,
there might be some crossover membership,
oh, okay, that's,
Fine.
yeah, that's fine.
but it wouldn't be called the Brookline Historical Society, it would be called the Brown Schoolhouse Committee and
So
the
there's only
Brookline
one.
Meetinghouse Committee.
Okay,
So that
That
would
clarifies
be
that.
clarify it and there wouldn't be any confusion. Okay,
Makes
so
sense.
I'll put that as a motion. David, do you have any questions about that?
No, I mean, and sorry, apologies if I missed. Have you had a conversation with Cynthia about
Cyn-
the
Yeah.
Historical Society and whether it,
She said that she'd like to be an ex officio on it. She was very happy to be asked to help out on our open house, which I'll talk about later. She understands that she's not able to do the work that she used to, and she's not offended. I'm gonna see her again on Friday and I'll spend a little bit more time with her.
right? I guess my question was more, we talked last time about whether there's actually anything more in the past to the Historical Society other than taking care of the Round Schoolhouse, or is that literally all that it is? So is
Literally.
renaming it appropriate?
Correct. Just
Okay.
rename and then re-advertising it to get some more meetings so that they would have at least 2 meetings a year with agendas and minutes.
Have we heard from the other two peoples directly as to their continuation? I had kind of a conversation with a gentleman after the BCA hearing. I know he's not interested, as he had told me, for being on the committee simply because he's working 70 hours a week now.
Right.
And he just can't do it. I don't know if the other person has expressed anything or whether.
Cynthia now was offered to try again. She said that she can get in touch with Mr. Wellman as well. He hasn't returned her phone calls. So, I mean, we'll put it out on the agenda. If you want me, I can put it out an email blast, and we're gonna be doing some PR things. And about the Round Schoolhouse Committee renaming, and just look, so that we're looking for more membership. Okay. That's that. All right, job description for road supervisor discussion, sample job descriptions for discussion. I did print out, I know I emailed it, I wasn't sure. This was the short one. I mean, there's, and Dave, you probably could check your email, is that short little paragraph. The other job descriptions, highway supervisors and such were 8, 9, 10 pages long, and we don't have a differentiated crew. We have a one-man
Sure.
band.
Does he see this? You should see it.
So,
You have that?
Mark, I couldn't get it up.
Take you a while to read it, Mark, it's a long one.
Yeah.
But
Glasses,
the other,
small print.
the other thing would be, you know, I have the, what we did for that daycare property manager, and this is one of the things I thought I would get typed up, and I just had a crazy week. Responsibilities and qualifications are this paragraph. I guess nobody else worked on this, I guess. Anybody else come up with anything?
I don't like that. I don't think we have to get too complicated.
Well, you want to read the state statute, it clearly indicates that the select board is responsible for providing the responsibility and authorities to the road person, the highway supervisor. And it didn't look like from the phraseology that it was a simple paragraph that was satisfactory.
Now, if the state's.
I have no problem taking the time to go through this and making deletions that are absurd in our situation and or adding things that might be helpful and send it to you a week before the next select board meeting if you like, but frankly, I feel a one paragraph item is not providing enough guidance to Mark. Frankly, it kind of leaves him on my responsible for this or aren't I? And if I don't, am I gonna catch hell for it or am I gonna be praised for it? Yeah, I think there ought to be some sense of Mark feeling secure in what knows what he's supposed to be doing. And if Mark ever, dies of a heart attack, I'd rather not rework this a second time because someone else that we don't know is doing something. If we had a structure for the job that says this is what your responsibilities are. And again, we're not looking to climb Mount Everest here, we're just looking at providing some guidance for ourselves as well as the employee. I wouldn't mind doing that, that's just, I'm 1 of 5, so I'll shut.
I think good points.
No, I agree, I wanna work on it, but I just.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I'm amazed at what you do.
That'd be great, Stan, but if you could simplify it and not have 15,000 pages.
No, I don't intend to
I
have
know
it
you
near,
do.
but I'm
I know
not.
you're aiming.
Yeah.
All right, so if you could work, Stan, if you could work on that, maybe even talk to Mark, he can work with you.
That would be a great idea, like Mark's got the time.
One of the things that, people do is like, write your own job description, that's like an assignment kind of thing, and then you can understand what you, so if you could write your own job description, what you think your job is, and meet with Stan, put it together, that would be helpful. Okay, very good, so we'll put this job description on the next meeting.
Oh, taking it off.
Me too.
Move some of it. We'll talk about that. There's too much.
Okay, job description. Okay. Around schoolhouse repairs for fall versus repairs for spring, we postponed that, right? We're tabling that for you to, after your review. So this is
I'm
also,
trying to make things simple. This is what we need, this is what we do, how we'll.
Okay.
And the story.
appreciate it. All right, so keep it back over there. So now we'll go on to reports. Town clerk report, Mr. Tanza.
As usual, the office has been extremely busy with the conveyances and refis and so forth, and a lot of questions, a lot of people asking questions, and I'm not sure why, but we've just been extremely busy. Other than that, everything's good. We got a few more dogs licensed, and things are going as well as we can expect them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, very good. Select board report workshops. I'm in the second day of a 3-day workshop with emergency management organizers. It goes from 12:30 to 4:30 every day. And it's been very interesting. I've learned quite a bit. But the most important thing is I'm getting contacts that I can contact and rely on, and some other towns that have had successful emergency operating committees during the COVID time. Being a small town, I'll tell you this, it's the same amount of work for a tenth or a 100th of the population size of whatever cities. It's the same bills, it's the same paperwork, same reports that get done, and it's, I was the only one that was asking questions during the meeting, so they know who I am. All right, so if we're working on that. The next item, the Tattersalls property letters were sent to landowners. Sent a letter to the Brookline Woods LLC and also to the Bell family in Sean and Kelly Bell. I did receive written permission from Sean and Kelly Bell to access their land for the remediation of the flood program at the Tattersalls home. I have not heard from the Brookline Woods LLC, although Marie said that she was going to call them. She was with a family member, and if she doesn't call them, Stan got me the phone number that I told her. She's figured that I can try to give a call. So, go ahead. Stan?
Yeah, I also sent you notification of who their legal representative is.
Yes, John, something.
And that's because apparently they bounced between New York, Brattleboro and Brookline. I don't know which of the three houses are at any given time.
Okay.
So if you find that necessary, it might save you time in tracing them in there.
That way.
Or they can send you a letter for you, with no charge, of course.
So we're working on that. I shared it with Mark and I shared with Archie as the letters came in and talked with Marie. All right, we're gonna move on to number 3, Brookline Baptist Church. The Brookline Baptist Church has been recognized as a National Historic Building and was placed on the National Historic Registry this month. We're very proud of that. We are researching the plaque that can be placed on the building, recognizing that appointment. I'm also going to look at the plaque for the Round Schoolhouse and also for bridge number 19. We have 3 National Historic Registry buildings or pieces or structures here in Brookline. So that might be something fun to have a special day next spring to recognize that and get some PR on it.
What is Bridge 19?
Bridge 19 is the Green Iron Bridge.
Bridge.
It's an historic bridge.
Yeah.
It's in the
People
19
wanted to tear that down.
Yes, they did.
No.
Yes, they did. And it won by 2 votes when we built it. Guess who 2 votes voted for it?
All right, so we'll move on. The open house at the historic buildings on September 4th was a phenomenal success. We've had close to 50 people that toured one or both of the 2 buildings. Cynthia now graciously spent the day in the Round Schoolhouse and we moved between the 2 buildings and people were really thrilled to be able to enter. We're going to do another open house for the last open house. This fall will be on Saturday, October 2nd, from 10 until 1. Cynthia said that she would also sit at the Round Schoolhouse again, having it open. Mark, thank you so much for setting up that banister. That was very, very, not only for Cynthia, but also for me, very, very helpful getting in and out of the building. They made a big difference, and for raking the leaves and helping get out the
And
trash,
stones that
everybody.
you put on the other
Yeah.
side, shed,
So,
I think.
That was great.
Looked nice too.
All right, and that's all I have to say. We move down to the, does anybody have any questions for me? All right, Bruce, it's you.
Okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how lovely that sign looks in front of the church.
Oh, I meant to say that, yes.
And I'm not gonna call it the other name, but the guy's gonna have to do it, but I think Mike's staff did a wonderful job. I'm looking at, okay, daycare building, there's really nothing to report. This is the first time I said this, nothing really to report on the daycare building.
You've done your job.
That's what I asked. Other than, we got maintenance coming up first part of October, which I don't need to go into World Wide World, that's me more. And that's a part of, I'm looking at a 3-pronged strategy of doing the 3 buildings and hopefully getting them done for winter. That town office and the Round Schoolhouse. The town office is relatively simple to coordinate that with Stan about the coffee and stuff like that. But then I have other things, so I'm gonna put that in with my explanation on October 4th, a little bit more detail with responses. what I'd like to see have done before the winter. And around schoolhouse. So I'll have it all organized by then. I'm not gonna do it now, because it's too long with it. And then I think that we could really finish these two buildings. School's got nothing to do with it. School's on its own now, it's done, just needs to be maintained. And Mark and I worked that out. All the hard work's been done, and now we can straighten these other two buildings out. And, one thing I wanted to ask you, John, is when, next time we have this building clean, can we do the schedule where around schoolhouse is done at the same time? Why not?
October 11th is when he's going to be coming back in at 4 p.m.
Can we, in the future, have it set up so that he does both?
Every other month? No, I think it'd be too expensive.
Whatever now. We got money in the account, it's over $2,000. We'll talk about it. We don't need to fight about it. We'll fight about it.
Okay, you can bring it up again on the 6th.
Okay. Anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say right now about the buildings. That I want to do the three-pronged strategy, and get these two buildings done as much as we can, if it's feasible, before.
Have you checked with the rodent man about coming back and doing the final talk?
No, I have not.
Are you gonna,
I found these a few, 5 or 6 mice in the last 4 or 5 weeks. The reason why I haven't is because I didn't see it being necessary. He didn't really seal the building completely. And I thought your approach was better, where you saw opens in certain spots, and you had, my main thrust of having him come back there was in part to tell me what stuff to use in order to complete sealing, but he didn't completely seal it the first time, because we still had mice coming in. So, we can still do that, I can still call him, have him come in, but I think I prefer for us to do a little bit more work on the building. The stuff that you found around the outside where the electric, where there's opens around the electrical panel and the oil part. And you said at the end of the joist, you saw some more opens. I would like to see that done, see if we still have a problem, then call him back. Rather than do it the reverse, because if we still have a problem, it's not his responsibility. His whole responsibility for the second meeting was just to check it. So if we've done all we could to rectify the problem and we still have a problem, then we bring it back in. I still don't think the bulkhead was sealed. You said some corner stuff that you saw light coming through. Yeah, the corners, why that wasn't sealed, I have no idea. He was here 2.5 hours for $800. So, you know.
I would rather call him back to do the work than ignore him or not respond. I mean, it's been a
Well, I called him
while.
once,
Okay,
but I did call him once, but it was a while ago. I could call him back again and discuss it with him and say, look,
this is what we're doing.
this is what we
We're
found.
still
This is what
finding
we're-
mice coming in.
Well,
Uh,
not only that, we know 4 locations where there's a space, it's
4
fairly
locations.
sufficient enough for them to come in, which means that he didn't do his job the first time.
that's exactly the point.
So
So, Sarah,
I
what's
like
your-
Dot's idea of really not negatively, but holding them accountable
Okay,
for having to do the job
okay,
correctly.
we have found 4 opens basically.
Right, we're still trying to, yeah.
And he
so
probably
let's
wouldn't
see
have
what-
seen the other stuff because we got the light on when we're down there. It's not like we're in a dark basement and you look and you see this bright spot.
Right.
We got the light inside, so there's reasons why he, I think,
Miss-
you missed those down the
On
west
that
end,
end,
but this end I don't understand.
yeah, that was simple stuff. I had clogged up, I had done some of that before this all started, was insulation, because I was so noticeable. But anyway, sure, I can call him up and discuss it with him and see what he wants, and see where he's at with it. But like I said, I wanted to have this as part of a 3-part strategy to finish it over before the winter. And that's it for me.
Okay.
One comment.
Yes,
We're
sir.
talking signs. I received an email from Michael Stats regarding the fact that he is working on our sign. He just wanted to let us know he's got it and he's working on it. I think he took the one off the building there a couple weeks ago. He apparently started it after he finished the one for the Meetinghouse. So he did indicate he's working on it, so I just wanted you to know that, he's conscious of it. I didn't want to speak in behalf of the select board, but I did tell him I saw the one for the Meetinghouse, and I thought he did a wonderful job on it. So, he knows what we're thinking, I guess, in that way.
Okay. Yeah, he did donate his services for the Brookline Meetinghouse sign, and we are going to send him a thank you note and an estimated value for tax purposes of the donation worth $1,000. I know our sign costs $650 or so, and this is on a stand and has some metal work on it, so you know, if he wanted to use that, he could.
Okay.
All right, anything else? We'll move on to highway road report, Everett Mark bills, work completed, work planned, and then the beavers are humans adding, that's what I wanna do first. Okay, I got a text message, our community is very good, they, you know, find me somehow, and I get a text message from, a messenger message from Facebook from a resident who was out for a walk with her husband and noticed a culvert that was filled with wood, and she was considering at first that it was beavers that were bringing the wood in, because they are standing in the area, it's up past, it's at 931 Grassy Brook Road. And she took a picture, and I sent it to Mark, and she and Mark both said it really looks like wood pile shaft, like when you clean up wood and there's all pieces of wood, it looks like someone took a bucket and just dumped it into the culvert.
Or they might have jumped it into the brook and it just ended up there.
That's what I'm wondering, so I don't know, what do you,
No, I believe they trucked it down with like a wheelbarrow and
Uh-huh.
dumped it over there.
and this is the land property owner.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what they looked like yet, I haven't connected with them. I did stop and clean up the debris.
What's the address?
931.
It's the first one going north past the town garage on the left, sets back away from the road.
Oh,
It's where we put the box culvert.
Yeah,
That's where
right.
Yeah.
Mary.
that's right.
That's where Mary looked at.
That's the
house.
Rays live there, right.
Alright, well, it looks like they got a log truck load of firewood, cut it, split it, and after all the wood was stacked, this is the debris that's left over. And they just didn't want it up near the house, so they put it over the bank. Well, the bank turned out to be the concrete abutment for the new
That runs
box
from Bloom's
culvert.
place and,
And not only is it the concrete abutment for the new box culvert, but the driveway culvert under their own driveway. That they've plugged it. They dumped it right in front of it.
wow.
So, my dad actually noticed it first. He says, you may have a beaver problem, because he saw it driving by. So when I went by, I stopped and looked, and then I got the note from Doc that beavers are, and there are beavers have been living and working just north of it 100 feet. There's a couple small beaver dams.
Beavers aren't splitting it.
So, but you look at
Like
this,
that,
it's all,
anything.
it's not chewed wood, it's wood chips.
It's not processed the way a beaver would
And
process.
and also there's cut brush like goldenrods and other tall weedy things dumped with it. So as I was driving by with the machine, I drove up there and I'm looking, and the bucket that's on the wheel excavator is smooth across the front. So I reached down and scooped it up, got it up out, and took it down the road and set it over the bank in a better
spot.
Thank you.
I probably would like, I guess I can find out their phone number and call them, I'll put that on my list.
There was
to do.
nobody home at the time that I happened to be
I
there.
can mail them a letter.
A letter would probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have their phone number, you know, on a voter checklist. I may have it on the dog license. I'm, you know,
Okay,
I'm sure I might have their list.
all right,
Yeah,
so
nice, yeah.
that's the beavers are humans. You can talk about the rest, Mark, your floor.
Okay, well. Okay, the signs are in, that say handicap parking. Those came in a couple days ago, and where would you like those installed?
Well, Bruce, we need to approach Bruce Bruce and the people who work at the daycare about their signs. I think the ideal spot would be to the left of where they walk into the main building. This way, if they have a car or a van and they opened it up, it would be right to the sidewalk, to their entrance. If you do it to the right of their sidewalk, then they have to come around and swerve in. So that's where I would, in front of the steps, you know where the steps are.
Yes, oh, yeah. I
That would be
really
my
like-
recommendation, but you have to check with Bruce and he has to check with the daycare. As far as for the town, I would say we would be
Right outside here.
right outside the door here, would be the first parking spot along the cement.
So you would have the sign facing this way,
No, facing the street.
facing the street.
Yep,
And then we
so
don't
that
want
they,
to
when they,
interfere
when
with
they pull in,
snow plowing, so would it be all the way over?
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, snow plowing, yeah, that's, yeah, he pushes the snow that way.
Or could it be tacked to the
Could be attached to the post.
Well, yeah, or,
facing the parking lot? You want me to stop in and look at it?
yeah, and we'll see, and, you know, the bottom line, no matter where we put it, it'll be better than what we had. And if the people with the handicap association have anything to say about it, they can give us a call or something. But
Right, no, I think that.
if we mark it with the paint, I mean, you know, the spray, and then we had the sign just to the left, I think that, or just put the handicap logo on
We don't
the,
have any logo, we didn't order a logo,
okay.
hang on.
So I have when I went to order that, the paint that they sold didn't work in the less expensive
Spray gun.
applicator. It was designed for the big applicator with 4 wheels, which is quite a bit more money. Then he recommended the tape. They have a white or a yellow marking tape that sticks to the pavement. And I said, well, how well does it stick? I said, would it be plowed off in the winter? And he said, yes, and the plow would probably remove it. So then he recommended just paint, and he said take a couple of boards and lay them down and spray in between them, and then you can move it to the next angle and do that. So I ended up buying the line paint and not the applicator.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we have we're gonna be approving this payment tonight, the total cost for the 2 signs, the case of the striping paint, and then your vests, you have some vests.
Yes, I got a couple extra for when we're out working and
Flagging.
people are.
Yep, so it's the bill's right here, so that's good.
And not only there's extra paint, they sell it by the case. They said you can redo it as it fades or gets wear. Okay, so next on the list was the 2 Better Back Road grant and the other grant that we did on Putney Mountain are almost complete minus the grass seed and hay and 1 culvert that we talked about earlier. And they're strictly on schedule for following on the deadline of the grant. Since the last meeting, I did the weed whacking, the intersection of Hill Road by Mrs. Now's. The grass and weeds were getting high enough to blind traffic in all directions, so I spent some time mowing down the tall grass in a few areas, such as up by Howard Osgood's gravel pit entrance. And by Mrs. Blue's, there was some tall stuff that was leaking out into the road that was kind of crowding traffic. So I spent some time weed whacking, worked at the round schoolhouse, I had sent the town's saws weed whackers for service at Ron's Husqvarna where they were purchased and got those back and everything's working great. As I talked about earlier in the summer, my summer plans was to since I've been the road person, seems like every time we get a hard rain, Whitney Hill has some drainage that it's a tough one, that it's a very narrow section of road. And it always cuts into the narrow section of road, so my plan was to widen the road and create a better ditch with stone lines, so that's now complete.
Oh, fabulous.
I have one last thing to do, and that's add a 8-foot piece of culvert onto the existing culvert, and then gravel over the top so that the corn will be better than car width wide. So that's complete, minus grass seed and hay. And I talked to a couple local people who have mulch hay for sale, so gonna purchase a trailer load, a small, like
Howard has some too.
Howard has.
He
mulch.
has
Okay,
200 bales.
very good,
Okay.
that's good to know.
You had some too.
So back to the grants, I've spent a few days on Parker Road. We installed a new culvert, it was part of the segment that was part of the grant that's replaced. The ditches are clean, stone lined, and also gravel to crown the road. And that's complete. Also, in the beginning of the season and last fall as well, the new person at the Winchester residence is now Danny Dobson, was having issues with silting and water issues. The culvert under the road by his place was kind of too low that when the water came up in the grassy brook, it would backfeed into the existing culvert. So we, Archie came out, we looked it over, decided that the culvert should be lifted up. So we brought the bottom edge of the culvert to the ground level of under the barn at Daniel Dobson's, so therefore the road's up
So
higher.
he did, yeah.
So we did add gravel across it. We recommended it's for 18 inches of culvert, you need 18 inches of gravel, it's the standard rule. So when we went to dig beside the culvert to replace it, it was not a new plastic, it had plastic extension. It's a rusted out, totally shot, filled with gravel culvert, so one of our new culverts went to that site, and so that should cure water issues there. When we were cleaning ditches on Parker Road to make room for the stone line, we applied a lot of material beside the road where the culvert I just talked about was all Japanese knotweed, and I crowded this material over so it'll make for better snow plowing, and that now I can set over to mow this knotweed down, because before at the time of mowing, this stuff just weeps into the road and creates a narrow passage and throws over your head in 2 months. So, let's see. I installed a new alternator and regulator on the grader due to I believe it's the original one stopped charging, and it started back in the winter, it was on and off. I would get to the far end of the Athens Road, and I would lose all my lights, so I'd have to come back with moonlight. So, as it was checked out and we determined it was the alternating regulator, so now it seems to be working properly. So I've been using the grader to apply gravels to our flooded areas that have been repaired. We're finally at the point topping the roughness over with crushed gravel to make a smooth transition. Putney Mountain is it's passable. I have one other section I'd like to stone line, and it's another one that continues to erode constant. And that's after you go around the first hairpin turn, that ditch is now like 3+ feet deep, very narrow. So I'm gonna fill it with big stone and that'll lock into place and that'll be a permanent fix. I also flagged the road on 7th for Car Street. Worked with his crew to flag traffic while they removed the trees at the project site on Hill Road. So in the future, that section is ready to be prepped for creating a new drainage ditch.
Will the work you're doing on that Hill Road site allow just for one to see around that corner as well
That's
as a
my
result
hope.
of what's going on?
That's my big hopes, because it'll be dug back on a 45-degree angle. So I've talked to the landowner, and he's great with trying to gain vision from pulling out of his driveway as well as Dan Teller and people across the road, and even the people on the inside of the corner should give everybody a better vision coming around as well as the drainage. So yeah, that's that works out in everybody's favor. Also, you know, when I'm traveling in the wheel excavator and in the grader, you're setting up higher than a regular vehicle, so I also noticed more flood damage after the fact as I'm going around town doing work. So I've still got a list of repairs I'm doing, but it found certain things that wouldn't have seen without walking the road. So the project is ready when we're available to do that on Hill Road. I also one day was going to work out on Ellen Ware Road, and as I'm going around this corner onto, it's a stone culvert. Just before Hortons, I don't know if everybody knows Mr. Horton.
Yes.
It's that last little ravine with the narrow section of road. Well, there was a hole in the road, so I got out and looked down in it. And it dropped down in there like 8 feet.
Whoa.
And so took the excavator and dug down to the bottom of the hole, and we packed almost an entire small dump truck load of gravel back into that.
A sinkhole.
And at the same time, kept looking in the ends, and nothing was coming down into the culvert. So I don't know if it's something that had been happening for a long time, or if it happened during the flood. But I was bailing the gravel out of the truck and spilling it slowly so it could go down, and then I pack it really hard, do another foot, pack it really hard, all the way to the top. So I believe it's repaired in a good way, and I'll continue to monitor that one. And another day when I was out, the same thing happened on the Athens Road, 1 mile up. We have a culvert that's 7-foot diameter squash culvert. And I realized early on that there's band rail on each side of this culvert with concrete headers. Well, the dirt had dissipated away from the post that the band rail is mounted to. So I took some of the big, we call it ditch stone, it's like 8-inch diameter. And put a scoop down in the hole and just kept putting 3 scoops, and I put all the material that I brought, and also on the opposite side, the opposite corner across the road that Eddie Road. So being there, I happened to look over the edge and it was full of trees. So during the high water, all these trees floated down and jammed into the culvert. So I took a chain and we pulled the trees out of the culvert and set them up the road on the bank. We were there for like an hour pulling all the logs that was jammed. So the machine worked great for that as well. So also out on Parker Road, directly across from Inner Fire's new driveway, the brook comes straight down beside the road, but then there's some tree clusters that kind of send the brook a hard left, and then it straightens out again. Well, as it's doing that hard left, it ate into the bank of the road, so it took away like 6 feet of roadway. So the fix for that, we went to Clark's pit and got blown ledge, which big random sized chunks, 3 10-wheeler loads, dumped them over, and then I packed them into the road and put them on an angle. And then on top of that, we put road base and then the gravel. So that's a flood repair that if FEMA works with us, we should be able to.
Right.
I took pictures of everything I've done
Okay.
on every road. Where I was told by the state, anything that was more than 10 inches was eligible for repair.
Okay.
So I have a camera full of photographs that hopefully someday mean something. And I plan to call Mark Pickering at V-Trans to ask him, where we're at with repairs and what the figures were for our flood damage. I also think that's it for the list of things I accomplished. Today I put more gravel up on Putney Mountain, finished up Parker Road. So there's still some rough road up on the middle of Putney Mountain that I intend to put more finer gravel on for smoothness, which should fall under the flood repairs. But I also, at my home, I'm just getting ready to hook up my propane tanks, and just wanted to pass the word to the town that I called around, and NITO is now selling propane out of Wilmington, and they come to Brookline. And actually Bruce's neighbor, Mr. Libby there, is the new representative
For NITO?
yeah,
Discuss.
a couple days
Can't
late.
say that.
But I called the office to get a price on propane to see where it's at, and it's like $2.37 a gallon for propane.
That's for heat
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, heat and
and, yeah.
whatever, but if you join their club, $39.95 once a year. You get it for $217.
Yeah, I'm in a club too, but mine's not down to 217.
So I just wondered if the town needed propane at the school or the Meetinghouse or anybody else. I just wanted to pass that.
Schools bought by Susie's themselves.
Okay.
My problem is getting somebody to service the boiler that will do it when they're not delivering fuel.
Right, well, they have a service crew as well, so it's something
Yeah,
to
that's-
consider.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, they're not a vendor on our stuff. Nido, correct, Guy?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Nido's not on our vendor list.
No, Nido, we get our diesel from, we get.
so I believe that's to my,
Okay. Stan, you have a question?
Yeah, on the Dobson issue that you did, is that gonna fall under one of these potential grant scenarios? It certainly looks like it would on the flood resilient communities fund in that it's preventing further issues, and that site, I believe, has been a problem
yeah.
over the years.
one of the rains, believe it or not, it's just enough of a flow coming from north of Brookline down to Parker Road that it would always go in there and cut the road up. And I've added enough gravel to berm up the road so the water kind of stays in until it gets past Parker Road. But one of the biggest issues is the basement floods at that place every time it rains. Immediately, water's coming from the Beaver Pond north of it. And we've had talks about this at meetings. And there is a culvert somewhere that comes from behind the house across under Parker Road to Grassy Brook. However, it's a stone foundation and he has a pump setting out front.
Right, he's right in front of his
The
house.
minute it starts to rain, they fire it up. It's flooded so many times and ruined the hot water heaters, the furnaces. And it's an awful situation there. But when he's running his trash pump there, the big water pump that moves the high volume of water, it always cuts across his own driveway into the town's road and then back to find the new culvert or where to put the new culvert. So yes, being that it's if we went back in our record, we could probably use the gravels that we constantly use to correct it, as well as the new culvert and the new remedy. It should fall under some sort of constant erosion issue.
Yeah, I remember back when we had Irene, that site was one, I think the then owner came and asked if we could do anything to help them.
Yes. That we were on board.
Yeah.
And
And I was there the day after this last storm and I saw the damage that had been done.
yeah,
Well,
for
that happened again, so, but it sounds like we're doing some time and it's something that can be funded in some energy. Like
yeah,
program.
and hopefully the road is high enough so the water would stay into the proper drainage ditch and utilize.
And was that something the owners have to apply for?
No, I can't apply for any of these.
Oh,
I'm not sure how it would work. That's
Yeah.
something we would have to,
Come from us.
you know,
And you only did work for the town, that's in the town right away
right,
and it's a culvert, so.
right.
Does the Beaver Pond really create the biggest problem there because it's got the water table so high?
I think it's the area. I think it's a combination of the saturated ground from the beaver pond, but also out behind the house, out behind the barn.
Yeah.
If you look at the lay of the land, there's watershed that comes down to that
Yeah.
meadow, all that mowing and weeps.
Yeah,
And
okay. No, I'm just trying to-
it's a stone laid basement, so it's gonna creep through every
Yeah.
crack. Now, I've even went as far as to put in a new
Very
culvert,
short.
between Dobson's and Interfire's home. And right where I placed the culvert, whoever built the stone wall purposely made a place for this water channel to come under the stone wall. So it collects a lot of water that used to venture down Parker Road to Dobson's culvert.
Have the Winchesters always had this issue?
I believe as far back as I can remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mr.
I'm just-
Winchester, Kerry Bourne, every night that it rained, he'd go down, pull out the water pump
Yeah.
and set it up and, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I can remember going into the basement with him one time and the floor was flooded and they had everything propped up out of the water. Yeah, it's been.
Yes. Anything else, Mark?
No, that's it.
All right, Bruce, you wanted to say
Yeah.
something?
In light of
Move on to,
Being careful in case of an emergency, like Mark has to go out in an emergency and he uses equipment. If you notice at the very beginning of his introduction, he said he had taken 2 pieces of equipment up to Ron's house to one, had them fixed. They both needed carburetors, I would imagine.
Yeah, it got to the point where they wouldn't stay running, wouldn't wiggle or.
We talked about this, and I'm gonna just give you a very quick amount of experience that I've had, given that I have 2 weed whackers, a generator, a splitter, 2 chainsaws, a push mower, a garden tractor, a leaf blower, a snow blower that's been down for 3 years because I haven't had a chance to work on it, and a 40-year-old Troy-Bilt tiller that I just rebuilt. Why am I bragging? Because I'm stupid, because I have too much fun. But anyway, I learned a lot from Ron Sustermar and my friends up there. I had to take care of the equipment. So I told Mark that I thought it'd be a good idea that he dump the rest of the gasoline that he had put in his car, or whatever, do what he's got to do, get rid of it. Regular gasoline should not be sitting a month. Ever.
wait,
So my suggestion to Mark was, and I'd even be happy to go there and get it for him, is use an ethanol-free gas.
Brattleboro.
Brattleboro's one?
Yeah, right by not the mobile station, but the station next to the mobile at exit 3 roundabout,
Which one? Sitco?
Mississippi.
They have the ethanol-free one? I haven't noticed that. I usually go to Hinsdale. It's white gas or it's high test. And I also go out and buy a can of Seafoam, a gallon of Seafoam. It costs $52. Usually lasts me 2 years. And that usually takes care of, if by any chance you had any ethanol in it. And water. It gets so bad. I was even instructed by Ron's that when you go to the pump to get your ethanol-free gas, make sure when you pump the gas, you put a gallon of it in your car, because the hose is used by all the different premium and regular gas. So if you get any ethanol into the carburetor and it separates, it does a number on the inside of the carburetors. Every one of these pieces of equipment just about have had issues with ethanol. No more. I could take you up to my house right now and start everything up on the first shot. But anyway, my point is, I wanted to get Mark, I'm done, to change his gas, buy some Seafoam, if everybody doesn't know what they're off of that. Especially like that, if he goes out sometime in an emergency, he needs that equipment and it won't start, there's gonna be an issue.
There we go, maybe it's good advice.
When I picked that up, they handed me the bill and said, this is the bill, and if I could pass it to.
It's me and I'll.
So this is
Oh,
the actual bill, they won't be sending another.
So you just put a little sticky note on it, okay to pay,
And
and
I don't know if this has been paid, but this was for the alternators for the
Okay.
grader.
Is this what we ordered that
It needs every,
Yes, yeah.
It was paid by credit
yeah, I
card?
paid it on a credit card, yeah.
Just paid.
There's a
Yep.
receipt and that thing.
$300.
All right,
It eats everything else, anything that's nothing, anything
Yeah.
that's plastic or vinyl, ethanol destroys.
all right, I'm gonna finish up our meeting so that we can add into it sooner than later. The communications are pretty explanatory. I already talked about the veterans resource and so on and so forth, town workshop and such. So then we go over to regular mail. We did get, and I don't have them here in front of me, I think I gave them to the treasurer, but we did get some appropriation thank yous in the mail since I wrote this up. We also got, Guy gave me some mail, there's our checks. We got a couple of returned letters from I guess residents. What is this guy?
What is it?
Seller verification forms?
Oh, no, that goes to the listers.
Okay, so this is in the wrong mailbox. Okay, so these are all listers. All right, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so pay orders. David, well, they weren't emailed out. It appears on the pay order that.
Hello. Know anybody's missing one of those?
Oh my God, oh yeah, the animal control officer.
It was in the middle of the road up here by
Oh, no.
Fisher's old place.
All right, mine,
Yeah.
all right, well, let's close it, I got it.
It lays down when you put it in your truck. It's-
All right, that's.
So,
Dave,
all right, you got it now? All right, thank you. Thanks.
somebody, assistant treasurer.
No markings on there.
Paperwork for the payroll and accounts payable. It wasn't emailed out. We have photocopied it at the beginning of the meeting because it was on the table when I arrived. And I don't know how you want to,
That's fine. I mean, you should go ahead and make the motion, everything. I'll abstain because I haven't seen any of it, but you guys can go ahead and, yep, that's
All
fine.
right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve, the accounts payable warrant 2022-11-B as in boy, in the amount of $28,187.97. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2022-11-B in the amount of $28,187.97, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I'll abstain.
David is abstained.
You could talk.
Okay, I'll pass this around for people to sign. No.
Gonna be a big call, you've got pretty big calls.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve payroll warrant number 2022-12 in the amount of $1,705.71. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant, the amount is $1,705.71. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-12 in the amount of $1,705.71, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain. Yep.
One from David, any nays? All right, with one abstention, the payroll warrant is approved to be sent around. My agenda for the next meeting, October 6th. I did put out, I haven't received back, the SEPCO wanted to send a representative or Zoom in briefly on one of our meetings. I'll let you know if it's October 6th or if they're going to make it the October 20th, I'm not sure. We may have some information on ARPA to discuss. Hopefully we'll have a treasury report. We can discuss highway equipment, historical society committees, the generator, the things to do for the round schoolhouse, and the job description, as well as town building winterizing. Anything else we'll come across?
Will the treasurer's office be able to provide financials for the next?
I'm going to ask, for financials, because we had a the treasurer's office, I couldn't ask for a couple of.
I get
Yeah.
He's got
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. I have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting at 8:51, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the meeting has been ended. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. We have a couple of years. I guess I'll take it home tonight now.
Where did the dog, I couldn't hear, where did the guy pick up the dog?
A resident was driving and picked up the dog running in the road up by Fisher's, he said, or I guess it's by the White Barn. And jumped in his car, lay down and saw the lights on here and dropped it off. Opened the door.
Early yesterday evening,
No chocolate.
my wife and I were out on the deck at the house. In the woods, back up in our house and Nicholas' little bitty dog was a dog barking off in the distance. And it was a young dog. It was not a fully grown dog. It did not have a heavy voice. It was a very faint voice, like a smaller dog would have. And we had not heard that ever. And wondered if one of our neighbors had lost one of their small dogs. This shows up tonight. I'm wondering if he was the guy wandering in the woods.
I don't know. I will post it on the listener and I have a crate.
Do you have a crate
Of course I have.
in the car though?
No. All right, so I'm gonna end our recording here.
Thanks, everybody. See ya. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.